My name is Ava Montgomery, and on most days, I wake up to the soft hum of church bells drifting across the Tuscan hills, bells that ring in my town. A town the world still calls Montella, but the legal documents, the ownership deeds, the maps, they all carry a different name now. My name. The morning sun filters through the tall, arched windows of my villa, turning the marble floors into rivers of gold. I tighten the belt of my silk robe, pale cream, soft against my skin, and walk toward the balcony. From here, I can see the cobblestone streets, the terracotta rooftops, the tiny cafe that closes every Tuesday because Signora Bianchi refuses to work on days she feels less alive. This town is dramatic, unpredictable, beautiful. Maybe that's why I fit here. My phone buzzes against the marble countertop behind me, a sound so sharp it slices through the calm. I already know who it's from before I turn around. My past has a very specific vibration. I pick it up. Notifications stack across the screen like tiny ghosts. For missed calls, 2 voicemails, 1 text, all from the same people. People who once looked me in the eyes and left me here as if I were luggage they no longer needed. My chest tightens, not with pain, not anymore, but with something colder, sharper, a memory, a warning. The voicemail icon blinks. My thumb hovers but doesn't press. Not yet. Not before I steady myself. Because when a family that abandoned you suddenly wants to talk, they never come empty-handed. And they never come without a reason. I was 22 the day my family left me in this town. Back then, Montella wasn't a place where I felt powerful or at home. It was a place where everything felt unfinished. Roads that led nowhere, shops that opened only when the owners felt like it, and a quietness that pressed against your ribs. I remember standing outside the old train station, clutching the frayed straps of my backpack while my parents argued beside a rental car. My younger sister, Holly, sat in the back seat scrolling on her phone, pretending none of this was happening. My father's voice cut through the dry summer air. Ava, this is exactly why we brought you here, to clear your mind. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. As if the panic tightening around my throat was some kind of performance. I stepped back, shaking. You brought me here to abandon me. Don't pretend this is about my well-being. My mother sighed in that tired, dismissive way she'd perfected over the years. You're an adult. You need to figure out your life instead of expecting us to fix it. I never asked you to fix anything. I whispered, my nails digging into my palms. I just asked you to listen. But they didn't. They never did. The argument went in circles, my father blaming my sensitivity, my mother insisting I wasn't trying hard enough, Holly rolling her eyes as if my existence inconvenienced her. Eventually, my father tossed my suitcase onto the pavement. We'll send money when we can, he said. They never did. I remember the moment the car pulled away, dust rising, engine fading, a final glance from Holly that wasn't cruelty or kindness, just indifference. That hurt the most. My legs gave out, and I sat on the cracked stone steps of the station, tears slipping hot and unfiltered. I felt stupid for crying, stupid for believing they'd ever see me as anything but too much, too emotional, too complicated. A soft voice touched my shoulder. It belonged to Nana Lucia, the elderly woman who ran the tiny bakery near the piazza. She held out a small linen-wrapped bundle. Pain cuore, she said gently. Bread and heart. For strength. Inside the bundle was warm rosemary bread and a tiny brass key. A spare key to her bakery. Work here, she said. Learn. Heal. Become more than what they decided you are. Her voice cracked something open inside me. Not pain, but possibility. That night, sitting alone in the attic room above her bakery, I made a decision. If my own family could leave me here to disappear, I would do the opposite. I would build a life so solid, so extraordinary, that even this forgotten town would remember my name. Working at Nana Lucia's bakery wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the dream I'd once held on to back in Boston, either. But it was the first place where I felt needed, where my presence didn't inconvenience anyone. The mornings started before sunrise. The air always smelled like yeast, citrus zest, and hope, the kind that rises slowly, stubbornly, even when you don't believe you deserve it. Nana taught me everything. How to braid dough with steady hands. How to read people by the way they ordered their bread. How to find peace in silence. Real silence, not the cold kind that used to fill my childhood home. You have fire, she'd say, tapping my chest lightly. But fire needs direction, or it burns you first. Her words stayed with me. In the afternoons, when the bakery quieted down, I'd sit in the back office and teach myself business, reading articles, studying online courses, watching videos about small-town development, tourism, hospitality, and real estate. I didn't know it yet, but the seeds of an empire were already being planted. One evening, a man named Marco Vescari came into the bakery. He was in his 60s, sharply dressed, and carried himself with the tired elegance of someone who'd lived 3 lives already. He turned out to be a developer who owned property in nearby towns, hotels, vineyards, old estates. Marco became my unexpected mentor. He didn't talk down to me. He didn't question my intelligence. He didn't call me too emotional. He listened. "You understand people," he told me once, stirring sugar into his espresso. "That's rarer than understanding numbers. Numbers you can learn. People? That's talent." Under his guidance, I learned how to evaluate property, how to negotiate without fear, how to see potential where others saw decay, how to turn charm into strategy, and how to bet on myself without apology. Success didn't happen overnight. I worked 3 jobs at one point: mornings at the bakery, afternoons waitressing, nights helping Marco with paperwork. My hands were constantly flour-dusted, my nails always chipped, my hair tied up in a messy knot I barely had time to redo. There were nights I cried quietly in my tiny attic room, overwhelmed, exhausted, wondering if my family was right about me. But then I'd look at that brass key Nana gave me. I kept it on a thin chain around my neck. It reminded me that someone believed in me before I believed in myself. My first big win was convincing Marco to buy an abandoned and outside town, and letting me manage it. I transformed that crumbling building into a charming bed and breakfast with local art, lavender soaps, fresh bakery deliveries each morning. It sold out within the first month. Then came a vineyard partnership, then a boutique hotel, then a string of properties tourists adored. Money followed. Reputation followed. Respect followed. But I didn't tell my family any of it. On social media, I posted simple pictures: a cup of cappuccino, a view of the hills, a quiet street. Never me in business meetings. Never me signing contracts. Never me standing beside Marco or investors. Let them believe I was invisible. Let them think I was still small. One day, I promised myself, they would understand exactly who they left behind. It happened on a Wednesday, the kind of warm Italian afternoon where the sunlight feels like honey and the whole town moves a little slower. I was in my office above the renovated piazza, reviewing final plans to expand the boutique hotel, when Sophia, my assistant, stepped in gently. "Ava," she said, her voice tight, "there are visitors asking for you." Visitors. No one ever just visited me unexpectedly. Not here. "Who?" I asked. She hesitated. Her eyes softened. "Your family." The air left my lungs, but not from fear. From recognition. From the sudden awareness that everything I had built was about to collide with everything I escaped. I stood slowly, smoothing the front of my cream blouse, silk, soft, elegant. A small part of me smirked at the irony. The girl they abandoned now wore clothes they once told me I could never pull off. "Send them up," I said. The sound of footsteps climbing the marble staircase echoed like a memory I hadn't asked for. And then they appeared in my doorway. My father first, then my mother, and then Holly. All older, more tired than I remembered, but still carrying the same air of superiority they used to weaponize against me. My mother forced a smile. "Ava, look at you." My father's gaze drifted across my office. The polished oak desk, the Italian artwork, the leather-bound ledgers, the panoramic windows overlooking the town square. "This is impressive," he murmured. Holly blinked rapidly, taking it all in. "You live here? Like all of this is yours?" I didn't answer. I let them absorb it. Let them sit in the discomfort of realizing they had no idea who I had become. My office was intentionally personal. Framed sketches from local artists whose careers I helped launch. Lavender plants from the vineyard I co-owned. A photograph of Nana Lucia and me holding fresh loaves of bread. And, on the center shelf, the brass keys she'd given me, gleaming beneath the sunlight. Not a single picture of my family. My mother's eyes noticed that. Her expression tightened. "We called you," she said softly, almost accusingly. "For weeks." "I know." My father shifted, clearing his throat. "We were worried. We heard rumors, changes here in Montella." "Rumors?" I echoed, a brow lifting. About what? That someone bought large portions of the town, Holly said. That the hotels, the vineyard, the businesses, they all belong to one person. I leaned back in my chair, crossing one leg over the other, letting the silence stretch, letting the truth simmer. And I asked, and we thought you might know something about it. My father finished. I rested my fingertips on the desk, nails freshly painted a soft blush tone. Calm. Controlled. I don't just know something about it, I said. I did it. My mother blinked. Did what? I stood, walking toward the large window overlooking the square. Below us, tourists wandered past flower stalls. Shopkeepers laughed loudly. Cafe owners set out fresh pastries. A town once fading into silence, now alive. I bought the town, I said simply. Piece by piece. Building by building. Business by business. Their silence was immediate and thick. Holly swallowed. You what? And last week, I continued, the regional council approved the name change. Montella will now officially be called. I turned back toward them, holding their stunned gazes. Montgomery. My name. The girl they left behind. Etched permanently into the Italian landscape. My father stepped forward, face pale. Ava, how could you afford this? I shrugged lightly. Hard work. Partnerships. Investments. Skills you never thought I was capable of. My mother pressed a hand to her chest, eyes shining with something between disbelief and guilt. We had no idea. That's because you never asked, I said, my voice steady. You never cared to know who I could become. Holly sank into the chair opposite my desk, whispering, Oh my God, Ava, you're rich. Powerful. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The room said it for me. The girl they abandoned in a forgotten town was now the woman who owned it. For a long moment, none of them spoke. My family, the people who once treated me like an inconvenience, now sat in front of me as if I were some kind of judge, holding their fate in my hands. Funny how life works. I walked calmly back to my desk, each step echoing in the polished wooden floor. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't emotional. I had waited years to feel this steady. My father was the first to break the silence. Ava, we didn't come here to fight. Things haven't been easy for us lately. There it was. The reason. Because there's always a reason. My mother leaned forward. Your father lost his job 6 months ago. Holly had to move back home. We're struggling. And you want my help, I said, not unkindly. Just honest. They exchanged glances, embarrassed, but desperate. Yes, my father finally admitted. I sat down across from them, folding my hands gently in my lap. My nails caught the sunlight, soft blush pink, the same color I used to paint them in college before I stopped feeling like myself. I'll help, I said. My mother exhaled in shaky relief. Holly's shoulders sagged. But, I added, there will be conditions. Their faces tensed again. My support isn't a bailout, I continued. It's an opportunity, one you have to earn. I turned to him first, a man who once called me too fragile to survive on her own. For you, I said, your condition is humility. He frowned slightly. Humility? Yes. You will accept a job here in Montgomery, not a management role, not anything with authority. A real job, honest work, something that teaches you how to treat people without power over them. He swallowed hard. Doing what? I shrugged. That's for you to discover. But you will interview. You will earn it. And your attitude will determine whether you keep it. The old him would have exploded. This version just nodded, eyes lowered. Growth, even in small doses, is still growth. Then I turned to my mother, a woman who spent my entire childhood reminding me not to take things so personally, while taking everything personally herself. For you, I said softly, your condition is honesty. Her brows knit. I don't understand. You will go to therapy. Real therapy. You will learn to communicate without belittling, without dismissing, without pretending emotions are a flaw. Her lips parted, surprised. I'm not. I wasn't, she stammered. You were, I said gently. But you can change. If you choose to. A long silence. Then she whispered, if that's what it takes to reconnect, I'll do it. Lastly, I turned to my sister. Holly had always been the golden one. Confident, admired, effortlessly loved. But now, sitting in my office, she looked small. For you, I said, your condition is direction. She frowned. Direction? You've spent your whole life following trends, not dreams. You don't know who you are without someone else defining it for you. She blinked. tears forming. I want you, I continued, to pick one dream, just one, and pursue it. Not because it's popular, not because someone expects it, because you love it. Her voice cracked. And if I don't know what I love, then your first task is to figure that out. A tear slipped down her cheek. Okay, Ava, I'll try. I stood slowly, letting my gaze sweep across all three of them. And for all of you, I said, my final condition is this. You will treat me with the respect of the woman I've become, not the girl you left behind. No one argued. No one complained. No one called me dramatic. Instead, for the first time in my life, my family listened. The weeks that followed felt unreal, like watching the past slowly soften around the edges. My father began working at one of the vineyards I co-owned. His first job? Managing deliveries. Not glamorous. Not comfortable. Not something he could brag about. But I watched him show up early every morning, shoulders squared, humility stitched into every step. He learned people's names. He learned to listen instead of command. And for the first time in my life, he looked human to me. Not invincible. Not intimidating. Just a man trying. My mother started therapy twice a week. At first, she called it self-improvement sessions to make it sound less vulnerable, but eventually she stopped hiding behind euphemisms. One afternoon, she stood in my doorway, eyes red but clear. I didn't know how much I hurt you, she whispered. I'm learning. I'm trying to be better. It wasn't an apology wrapped in excuses. It was real. That mattered. Then there was Holly. She spent days wandering the town, sketchbook in hand, hair messy from the Italian wind. One evening she showed up at my villa holding her notebook like a fragile truth. I want to be an illustrator, she said. Not because it's cool or profitable. Because when I draw, I feel like myself. I smiled. Then that's who you're meant to become. For the first time since we were kids, she hugged me. Hard. And it didn't feel like pity or guilt. It felt like rediscovery. But the biggest change wasn't in them. It was in me. I walked through the town one morning. My town, the streets humming with life. Kids running with gelato, tourists snapping photos, locals chatting by the fountain. And everywhere I looked, I saw pieces of the journey that brought me here. The bakery where I kneaded my first dough beside Nana Lucia. The inn where I learned I could be a leader. The vineyard where I made my first real investment. The skyline I rebuilt with my own hands, one decision at a time. I ran my fingers over the brass key still hanging around my neck. The first gift I ever received from someone who believed in me. The symbol of the moment I chose to rise. I whispered a thank you. To the past, to the pain, to the girl who survived being left behind. Because if they hadn't abandoned me, I might never have discovered the woman I was meant to be. And now, when people ask how I built an empire in a forgotten Italian village, I tell them the truth. They left me here to disappear, but I stayed to become unforgettable.